This week we are beginning the book of Leviticus, Sefer Vayikra, and so much of Leviticus is taken up with description of the various korbanot, the various sacrificial offerings of animals or food, wine. And I thought we would learn a piece in the Torah Temimah today which delves into one categorical idea in korbanot, which is the relative obligations of men versus women in the bringing of korbanot. It's a broader question throughout all of the Torah of the relative obligations of men and women according to the traditional halacha, some of which the Torah Temimah will get into. This conversation is a little technical, so we'll try to explain it as we go. I think it's worth trying to stick with him. He raises a couple of interesting points, but more broadly, why I like the piece of Torah we're about to read is because it serves as a helpful reintroduction, reacclimation into some of the laws and ideas of korbanot as we get back into Sefer Vayikra. So this is chapter 1, verse 2 of Leviticus of Vayikra. Taber b'nei Yisrael v'amarta alehem, speak to the children of Israel, b'nei Yisrael, the children of Israel, say to them, Adam ki yakriv mikem korban l'Hashem, a person, if or when they will bring a sacrifice to God, mina behema, mina bakar, mina betzon, from animals, from the herd, from the flock, takrivu et korbanchem, you should bring the offering. So the midrash that the Torah Temimah is going to cite is from the very opening of that verse on the phrase Daber el b'nei Yisrael. Now b'nei Yisrael means children of Israel, and I would have thought that sort of my intuitive read is that that's speaking about everyone, but of course banei can be banim, which can be children, or it can be male children versus banot. So the midrash, this is from Masechet Kedushin, Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, Tractate Kedushin, page 36a. Says the midrash, Samich le v'samach yado. In two verses, the Torah is going to say that the person bringing the offering should place their hand. And yado also seems to implicate that it's perhaps male. It's not yadeha, it's yado. His hand, he, masculine, he will place his hands. B'nai Yisrael somch, so the midrash learns out from both b'nai, banim, and not banot, and yado, not yadeha, his hands, that b'nai Yisrael somכין ואין bנות Yisrael סומכות, that it is only male Jews who perform the action called smicha, and not female Jews that perform the action called smicha. Now, what is smicha? That the verse in two verses from now, samach yado, is going to say. Smicha is putting your hands on the animal offering that is about to be sacrificed. It seems there is some level of putting pressure on the animal, some, whatever this means, transference, infusing some level of guilt or culpability, forming some relationship with this animal before it is slaughtered. But the midrash here is learning from the language that this is a masculine, not a feminine command. So now let's see. This is going to be a lengthy piece in the Torah Temimah. I hope you will agree with me that it's ultimately going to be rewarding and interesting. Hainu, bekorbanot shehen atzman miviot. When the midrash in Masechet Kedushin says that it is only men and not women that perform the smicha, the laying of the hands, the Torah Temimah notes that this, of course, is talking about offerings that women are bringing. So let's take a step back. Smicha, the putting of the hands, is itself just one aspect of the broader category we're talking about, which is bringing a korban, bringing an offering. Torah Temimah notes that women can bring offerings. ואין הפירוש שאסורות לסמוך אלא שאין מחויבות. And further, the Gemara is not saying that women are not allowed to place their hands, but rather that they do not need to. As is explained else in another Gemara in Chagiga. Fine. Aval b'shlichut b'korbanot ba'alehen gam asurot lismoch. There is a time when women are not allowed to do smicha, and that is when they are acting as emissaries for their husbands. So this Talmudic tractate here is assuming that these women are married in heterosexual marriages, and that their husbands are wanted to bring a korban, bring an offering, and their wives are acting as emissaries. In that case, they're not allowed to, but generally not allowed to do smicha. But generally speaking, women are allowed; they're just not obligated. V'chein mima'ato begamara kan nashim mikol avodot shebakorban. The Torah Temimah goes on to note that if you look in that section of the Talmud, tractate Kiddushin, you will see that it's not just smicha that women are not obligated in, but it's actually all of the subcategories, all of the actions that make up the broad process of bringing a korban. And he lists what they are. Hatinufot, v'hagashot, v'hakemitzot, v'haktarot, v'hamalikot, v'hakabalot, v'hahazaot, which mean the waving, the approaching, the kamitzah, the gathering of flour for the mincha meal offering, the haktara, the offering of incense, the malika, the killing of the birds, the receiving of the blood, and the sprinkling of the blood. All of those are actions that constitute the broader bringing of a korban, and which are worthy of, they need to be explained on their own another time. So in this Gemara, women are, the Gemara determines that women are not obligated in any of these actions. Mishum dibekulhu ktiv b'nei Yisrael or b'nei Aharon. Just like our drasha opened by noting that it was the language of b'nei Yisrael, which, as I said, though it seems to me that the pshat, the simple understanding of that, is simply saying the children of Israel, which is regardless to sex or gender. The Gemara is choosing to read that as having to do with gender, and it's males. Males are the only ones who are commanded to do that. Females are not commanded to do it. V'darshinan b'nei Yisrael v'lo benot Yisrael. So, fine. Now he's going to get into some of the commentary, and he's really going to get a little bit into the weeds of how this has been understood and argued about over the centuries. He's going to quote Tosafot from that Gemara in Kiddushin. Uve Tosafot hikshu lama itztarech lameit nashim mikol elu. Tosafot asked the question. Tosafot, the great medieval commentators, why does this section of Talmud in Masechet Kiddushin need to limit women from all of these categories? Tepuk le shehen mitzvot aseh shehazman grama. The Gemara should have known that all of these subcategories are considered positive mitzvot, which are time-bound. And we have a general law in rabbinic Judaism that a mitzvah, which is positive, you shalt do, and time-bound, meaning there is a limited amount of time, it's boundaried. At a certain point, the mitzvah is no longer applicable, that any mitzvah which meets those categories, women are not obligated in them. Shehein mitzvot aseh shazman grama de'ena nohagot ela b'yom kelafinem b'pasuk Sof Parak Tzav, Sof Parshat Tzav. So we see that there was a limited amount of time when these korbanot could be brought. So these were really this is a time-bound mitzvah. So women, we would have assumed, based on the general law that we know, called positive time-bound mitzvot, women are exempt from them. We would have already known, asks Tosafot, that women are not obligated in all these things. The waving, the approaching, the gathering of the blood, the sprinkling of the blood, the offering of the incense, the killing of the pigeons, all of those things. So why Tosafot asked that question? The Torah Temimah, we're now going to see, does not like that question. Va'ani tamet ma'od. Says the Torah Temimah, I totally don't get their question. Ma ra'ula hakshot kacha. What did they see to ask this question? Hein gam hakravat korban gufei eino ela biyom. And this, I think he has an amazing kasha. Torah Temimah has a fantastic question on Tosafot. He says, wait a sec. The entire action of bringing a korban, of bringing a sacrifice at all, is itself a positive time-bound mitzvah, and yet we see that what? Women are bringing korbanot. Acharei techazinan shehatorah harshata lenashim lavi korbanot kamo ligvarim. Once we've seen that the women has empowered, that the Torah has empowered women to bring korbanot like men, Hare shechayavatan haTorah b'mitzvah zu de korbanot afal pi shehizman grama. We see that the Torah has obligated them in this mitzvah of korbanot, even though it's a positive time-bound mitzvah. So then he gives the final blow to his argument against Tosafot. Ve'im kain memela chayavot b'kol hapratim anizkorim hashayachim lekorban. And then you would have assumed, naturally, that women are automatically obligated in all of the actions which constitute the broader bringing of the korban. So, right, let's just finish seeing what he says. Ve'en kol svara lapotran me'apratim b'makom shebehaklal chayavot. So there is no logical reason why we would have exempted women from the subcategories, the actions of the waving, the offering, the receiving, the sprinkling of blood, etc., once they were obligated in the broader mitzvah, the broader category of bringing a korban, bringing a sacrifice. Kamoshe ein svara liftor nashim. Okay, now he has an example that he gives, but I think we hear his question. Remember, I'll just quickly summarize this point before we move on. Tosafot asks a question in Masechet Kedushin: Why do the sages have to learn that only men are obligated in these constitutive actions of Hakravat HaKorban, of bringing a sacrifice to the temple? Again, it's the waving, the catching, the approaching, the sprinkling, the malika, the cutting of the bird's neck. It's a little morbid, some of this stuff. But why did the sages need to learn out from the male language of Bnei Yisrael and Samach Yado, putting his hand for the smicha? That's one of the other constitutive actions, the smicha, the laying of the hands on the animal before it's shechted. When we have a general idea that women are already exempt from any positive time-bound mitzvahs. And the Torah Temimah says, Tosafot, what are you talking about? Once we know that women are obligated in the broad category of bringing a korban, then we would have assumed that they would be obligated in all of the subcategories. So that's why the Gemara needed to tell us that actually no, they're not obligated, though they are allowed, in the subcategories. So that's the Torah Temimah's first point. And now he's going to take even further a step back and ask an even larger, more global question. U'bi'ikar chiyuv nashim b'karbanot kamo gvarim. And now let's talk about generally the fact that women are obligated in korbanot like men. How do we know that? Hamakor harishon lezeh b'Torat Cohanim. The first source for this is in the collection of midrashei halacha, the collection of halachic midrashic material, of legal midrash, legal rabbinic exposition on the book of Leviticus, which is called Torat Cohanim. It's in chapter 22:18. The verse there says, Ish, this is in Parshat Emor, by the way, Ish mi beit Yisrael u'min ager beYisrael asher yakriv korbanot l'chol nidrehem v'chulei. Every person, every Israelite person, and from anyone living amongst Israel who will bring korban for anything that they have vowed to do, says the Midrash, that's the verse. The Midrash in Torat Cohanim says, by Yisrael, what's with the word there, that anyone who's living in Israel? That seems redundant, so it comes to include something. L'rabot nashim va'avadim. This comes to teach us women. Women are obligated to bring a korban. Okay, and now the Torah Temimah says that guess what? Maimonides, in his magnum opus, the Mishnah Torah, says he basically, though he doesn't cite that verbatim, he has the same idea. This is in Hilchot Korbanot, Perek Gimel Halacha Bet. In my copy of the Mishnah Torah, this chapter is called Maaseh Korbanot, the action of bringing the korban. So this is now a quote from the Mishnah Torah. Echad anashim ve'echad nashim ve'echad avadim ve'in kol korbanot. Men, women, and indentured servants, avadim, some translate as slaves, all bring korbanot. So that is explicit in the Rambam that women bring korbanot. It's explicit in that Torat Cohanim. Now, the Torah Temimah is going to cite a commentary on the Mishnah Torah called the Kessef Mishna. The Kessef Mishna, written by the famous author Rav Yosef Karo, who's perhaps most famous for his legal code, the Shulchan Aruch. But here, Yosef Karo is commenting on the Mishnah Torah, and Yosef Karo, in his work Kessef Mishna, one of the things that he is known for doing there is trying to bring sources. He tries to say what Maimonides was basing his rules on. Maimonides himself usually does not cite his sources, so the Kessef Mishnah, later commentary, goes through the Mishnah Torah and says, here is where the Rambam got this idea from. So now the Torah Temimah is going to show us where Rav Yosef Karo believes the Rambam is getting the idea that women can bring korbanot. Here we go. This is a quote from the Kessef Mishnah. Ze pashut shehakatuv hishve ish leisha dekol dinin shebetorah. It is well known, or it is obvious, that the Torah equates men and women vis-a-vis all of the laws of the Torah. Ukvar amru, and we already said, shenashim ein somchot, and we know elsewhere that women do not place they don't do smicha, they don't place their hands on the animal. Ushaninu hasmichot v'hatunufot v'chulei, as it was taught, and this is now he's citing from the Gemara in Kidushin, that they neither do smicha, nor do they wave, nor do they do malika, etc. That list that we talked about. Nohagot be'anashim velo benashim. Men are obligated, but not women. Mashma shemiviot korban. But that implies that nevertheless they do bring the korban, right? V'kol mitzvah sha'isha chayevet eved chayav v'chulei. And any mitzvah that a woman's obligated in, so too is an indentured servant. That is the conclusion of the Kessef Mishnah. So just briefly to say that again, the piece of the Kessef Mishnah, this is the commentary of the Kessef Mishnah on the Mishnah Torah. Remember we said, and this is all being quoted by the Torah Temimah, so there's many centuries that are happening here. We're having this conversation in the 21st century. The Torah Temimah was writing in the 19th century. He's citing a commentary of the Kessef Mishnah, who wrote in the 16th, 15th, 16th century. He himself was doing commentary on the Rambam from the 12th century. The Rambam picking up, ostensibly, the Torah Temimah wants to claim, on a Torat Cohanim from the midrashic material from somewhere in the 4th to 6th century, which was on an earlier Mishnah and Gemara. Mishnah was codified in the year 200. So many different strata of explication and explanation happening here. So if you're bearing with us so far, ashrecha, good for you. We're almost at the end. The Kessef Mishnah, just to recap, says that, he says, what's the source for Maimonides, for the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah saying that women can bring a korban? He says, for the Kessef Mishnah, he says, logic. It's logic. What's the logic? He says, generally, men and women are equated for all the laws in the Torah, unless we know there's something that removes them from that. So generally, we know they can do the same thing. And now the Kessef Mishnah says that we know from the Gemara, the Talmud, and Masechet Kedushin, that there's certain things women are not obligated in. It's those constitutive elements. Smicha, malika, tenufa, that list that we said, kamitza, haktara, all those things, the offering, the catching, the bringing. He says, but The fact that it has to go out of its way, the Gemara has to go out of its way to exclude women from those obligations implies or indicates, we can infer from it, that they are obligated from the general action of bringing a korban, bringing an offering. Again, Torah Temimah doesn't like this. Now, Torah Temimah will conclude. V'hinach roeh. Behold, you can see, Shalafia makor shebetorat Cohanim shehavenu, according to the source, that midrashic source in Torat Cohanim, which learned it from a verse in Parshat Emor, that women are allowed to bring a korban. Yipalema od al richut varima ele. He said, I don't understand. It's totally wild. It's totally crazy that the Kessef Mishna, Rav Yosef Karo, would write lengthily about this and try to show you how it's implied and it's logical that women can bring a korban. Why did he do this? Tachlitam raklim so makro ledivrei Rambam. He's trying to find a source for what the Rambam says. Al pi ezu mashmut lashon b'gemara, trying to deduce from the language of the Gemara. But wait, the whole time, but the reason has been written explicitly very well in that midrash in Torat Cohanim. V'havale lirshom bekitzer Torat Cohanim Parshat Emor v'tulo. All he should have done, the Torah Temimah ends here with an editorial note for Rav Yosef Karo, who lived 400 years before him. And he says, Rav Yosef Karo, with all due respect, that's not what you should have written in your commentary there on the Rambam, on the Mishnah Torah, in chapter 3, halacha bet of korbanot. You should have simply said, the source for the Rambam is in Torat Cohanim, Parshat Emor, V'tulo, and nothing else. You should have said, period, full stop, see there. A bit of a lengthy Torah Temimah. Thank you for sticking with it. Hopefully you found it enriching, enlightening, and for me, at the very least, a helpful re-acclimation, starting to involve ourselves in some of the laws of korbanot, of bringing the sacrificial offerings to the temple, now that we are entering the readings of Parshat Vayikra, Sefer Vayikra, which we will be in for the next months. Always a pleasure learning with you. More next week.